Something feels different in Los Angeles right now. It's that kind of quiet you get right before a franchise makes a decision that actually matters. Bolt fam is staring at all that cap space and thinking, all right, now we're cooking. But the smartest move isn't always the loudest one. And that's what makes this stretch of the offseason so interesting, because the clues are there if you're paying attention. Here's the promise. By the end, I'm going to connect 4 things that, together, tell you what direction this team is really leaning in March. And when you see the pattern, you might start looking at the entire offseason a little differently. There's one choice in particular that could define how our spring goes, and I want to know where you stand on it. What's been sticking with me is this feeling of a wide-open window, mixed with a front office that refuses to get boxed into one tool. The fact is pretty straightforward. Even sitting on more than $80 million in cap space, everything we're hearing points to Joe Horty's not planning to use the franchise tag at all, on Odafe Oweh or anybody else. And that's not nothing, because in theory, the tag is the safety belt. It's what teams use when a long-term deal isn't done before free agency, and you can't afford to lose the guy. At the Combine, Sports Illustrated's Matt Verderami laid it out. Even with Oweh being a top priority, and the Chargers having gobs of money available, Horty's isn't expected to tag Oweh or another player in the coming days. That tells you this isn't just a negotiation, it's a philosophy. And it matters right now because, realistically, Oweh is the only true tag candidate on this roster. Khalil Mack is always in that retirement conversation, just like last offseason, and it would be a weird look to pay tag money for a veteran who's been around the 60% snap range the last 2 years, if there's even a real chance he wants to walk. Oweh is a completely different situation. The Chargers traded for him mid-season, and he came in and gave you 7.5 sacks in 12 games. He fits as a legit building block next to Tuli Tuipolotu, and he's exactly the kind of edge presence you don't casually let hit the market. Losing Oweh wouldn't just be, dang, that stings. It would be a disaster, because now you're back to edge rusher being a massive problem. You'd either have to fix it early in the draft or throw big money at a free agent, and you'd be losing continuity on a defense that's trying to stay as similar as possible for new coordinator Chris O'Leary. Here's the conflict that's going to split the fan base. Do you use the tag as protection and buy yourself time? Or do you avoid it completely to keep maximum flexibility? Because the tag isn't just a keep the player button. It can freeze your cap, create tension, and sometimes it turns negotiations into a standoff. But if you let the market open with no tag in place, you're basically saying, we're confident we can close this without needing a leash. And in a pass rusher market, somebody always shows up with a checkbook. 2 paths. Path 1. You get the long-term deal done before the market opens. Perfect world. No tag, no drama. You lock in a young edge partner for Tuli, and you keep spending that cap space where it helps most. Path 2. Talks stall, Hortiz holds the line on not tagging, and now you're flirting with a bidding war. And bidding wars at edge are how teams end up overpaying or sprinting to plan B. Either a pricey veteran or a rookie you're suddenly asking to carry pressure snaps on Sundays. So let me throw it to you like a real vote. Are you team tag Oweh to make sure he doesn't slip away? Or do you trust the negotiation and let it ride? X or Y, drop it in the comments. And I'm telling you right now, there's a strategic reason that quiet confidence matters. Because it connects to a name being floated in trade talks that could change the tone of this defense in a way people aren't fully talking about yet. There's a moment every offseason where you start noticing patterns before the rest of the league catches up. It's not about the obvious move. It's about the type of player you're suddenly linked to, and what that tells you about what the team thinks it's missing. Because think about it. A new defensive coordinator calling plays for the first time, a young unit that's still growing, and an immediate need to make the job easier in year 1. Nobody stands at a podium and says that, but the offseason tends to tell the truth if you read it right. The fact is, the Chargers could explore a trade for Javon Hargrave, with the Vikings listening to calls. Nothing is confirmed yet, it's being floated as a possibility, but just the idea that there's openness there matters. We're talking about an interior defensive lineman who can rush the passer from inside, a guy with 49 career sacks, and a monster season in 2022 where he put up 11 sacks, 16 quarterback hits, and 60 tackles. That kind of interior pressure doesn't come around every year. And the impact? Immediate, especially for Chris O'Leary. A first-time play caller needs allies on the field. He needs players who win one-on-ones so he doesn't have to live on perfect calls every snap. Pressure up the middle collapses the pocket before the edge even has a chance to bend. It forces quick decisions, it speeds up quarterbacks, and it puts your outside rushers, guys like Owe and Thule, in position to clean things up. But here's the real dilemma. Is it worth spending trade resources on a veteran like Hargrave? Or do you trust your young talent and invest that capital somewhere else? Because a trade isn't just about who you get, it's about what you're giving up. Picks, flexibility, future moves, there's always a cost. So I want your GM for a day answer. If you're running the Chargers right now, are you kicking the tires on Hargrave? Or are you riding with the current group and saving your ammo? Two different roads again. If you bring in Hargrave, you instantly raise the floor of the defensive front and give O'Leary a weapon that changes protection schemes. That can speed up the entire unit's growth. If you don't, the plan leans harder on internal development and perfect fit from younger guys. And that can work, but it demands patience and clean execution. And that word, execution, is exactly what sits at the center of another situation that's getting louder by the week. One that involves frustration, a big contract, and a departure that feels more and more inevitable. Everybody thinks the Chargers' offensive line issue is just find one good player and move on. But here's the contradiction. Once you lose stability inside, it spills into everything. Your play calling changes, your run game gets boxed in, your quarterback starts living in survival mode. And you can't build a real playoff run in the AFC like that. The fact is, Joe Ortiz didn't outright say Mekhi Becton's future is up in the air, but the non-answer at the Combine said enough. The way it's being framed is that, barring something shocking, Becton will be released in the coming weeks after a rough first season in Los Angeles. He's openly expressed frustration with the coaching staff and how the team handled his injuries. That turns into noise, and noise in an offensive line room is poison. It's a unit that lives on trust and timing. And it's not happening in a vacuum either. The interior already took another hit. Veteran center Bradley Bozeman retired. So this isn't just one cut. It's another hole in the exact spot you can't afford to be unstable. Right in the middle of keeping Justin Herbert clean. That's the impact, plain and simple. Interior protection is the difference between Herbert being able to step up and drive the ball, or Herbert constantly drifting, resetting, and taking hits. It's the difference between calling the offense you want and calling the offense you can survive with. And with Mike McDaniel coming in to elevate this unit, wasting that opportunity because the inside of your line is leaking would be brutal. Here's where the fan base splits. Do you plug the hole with a safe, immediate fix? Or do you swing for a rookie who can step in and become part of the identity? Because the draft angle being pushed is Penn State guard Olavavega Ioane as the ideal Becton replacement. And I get it, he checks boxes Harbaugh loves. Physical, powerful, a true road grader who can help the run game and keep the pocket sturdy. The numbers being cited are wild. In 11 games this season, Ioane didn't allow a single sack or quarterback hit, gave up just 4 total pressures, and committed 1 penalty. That's rare production. That's the kind of profile that makes you think plug and play, even if nothing is guaranteed the second you enter the league. So let's paint the two scenarios. If the Chargers move on from Becton and nail the Ioane pick, or someone like that, you get youth, cost control, and a clean fit with the team's philosophy. But if that rookie needs time to adjust, you're putting massive pressure on Herbert and on the new system immediately. The other route is trying to reshuffle internally or chase veteran stability. Maybe you survive in the short term, but you might still be stuck without the true upgrade that raises the ceiling of the offense. So hit me with the fear or hope question. Does the idea of Becton being gone energize you because it clears the path? Or does it worry you because it feels like the interior line is just bleeding out? Because the next piece ties all of this together. And it's the one that could unlock Herbert in a way that changes the noise inside SoFi Stadium. If this comes together the way it's being framed, the Chargers' offensive story can shift fast, not because of hype, but because of how the plan is being described from the top. And when a general manager talks about a coordinator with this much conviction, it's not just a compliment, it's a roadmap. The fact is, the Chargers landed Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator, and Joe Ortiz made it clear he believes Justin Herbert will thrive in McDaniel's scheme. Ortiz pointed to what makes McDaniel different. He builds the offense around the players he has, not around a rigid template. He's not the guy who says, "Go find me this exact type of player." He's the guy who says, "Tell me what we have and I'll create the best version of it." Let me say this. That matters more than people realize, because the impact is bigger than just new play caller. It changes how you interpret every other decision. Offensive line moves aren't just about protection. They're about making the scheme work on 3rd and long and in the red zone. The run game isn't just about numbers. It's about forcing defenses into conflict, creating chunk plays, and letting Herbert attack with timing instead of chaos. Every piece has a purpose when the system has a clear identity. Ortiz even referenced seeing a similar scheme in action in Baltimore with Gary Kubiak, and how Joe Flacco had arguably his best year with it. That's not a casual throw-in. That's Ortiz telling you what kind of upside he thinks is on the table when the quarterback and coordinator actually sync up. Now I want the debate framed as a priority. What's the biggest urgency to make this whole plan hit? Is it investing hard in the offensive line? Is it adding more weapons? Or do you believe the scheme alone is going to lift the level of what's already on the roster? Because scheme helps, but the league still punishes weak links. Two paths again. If McDaniel installs his offense quickly and the front office delivers the right support, especially up front, Herbert can have the kind of year that changes the national conversation about him and about this franchise. But if protection cracks, if the interior stays unstable, or if the roster doesn't match what the system needs right away, you risk another season of almost. Another season of watching the ceiling but never touching it. Now bring it all together. Not using the franchise tag is about keeping flexibility. Kicking the tires on a name like Hargrave is about raising the floor of the defense for a first-time play caller. Moving on from Becton is about correcting a miss quickly instead of clinging to it. And hiring Mike McDaniel is the center of the whole thing, building a structure that finally lets Herbert play free. That's the promise from the start. These aren't random headlines. They point to one goal: accelerating Justin Herbert's prime. So I'll leave you with this. Do you feel the big leap is coming now? Or do you think we're still one more offseason away? Drop your take, and if you're rocking with Bolt Fam content every day, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and get loud in the comments. Bolt up.